My 21-year-old niece recently started dating Jim, also 21. While everyone was initially happy for her, her parents and I noticed that my young teen nephew was nervous around him. We managed to get the reason out of him and it was absolutely terrible. Jim used to work where my nephew played hockey and bullied him badly. My nephew's name is something similar to Jack, but Jim would call him Jackie 24/7 and treat him like a girl. He had it out for him and other people joined too. My nephew quit hockey because of him and even developed a panic disorder. This all happened in a year and it was a really tough time. So when I found out that Jim was the cause of all this, I'll admit I freaked out. Her parents talked to her about it and it turns out she knew. She said that her brother's always been a little sensitive anyways. We were all shocked. She didn't budge though and said she plans on marrying Jim, so we better move on already. My brother and his wife are devastated. They can't control who she dates, but they no longer let him come over. My niece is still insisting that everyone's overreacting. My brother and his wife were out. It was just my nephew and me when the doorbell rang. It was Jim and my niece. I told them to please leave, but my niece said no. She said that I even have less authority over her than her parents do, so I'd better move out of her way. I said no and told her to come back alone and I might consider letting her in. She said that she and Jim are a package deal, so I said then leave. She was all huffy and said that I was being unfair and she couldn't choose who she loves. Jim even tried to say that he's changed, but I refused to hear it and eventually just shut the door in their faces. I heard my niece yelling though, called me every name in the book and accused me of favouring her crybaby of a brother. She even suggested that her brother was manipulating all of us. While I definitely don't believe that last part, it's true that I have no authority over her and therefore have no right to say anything to her. I suppose I should have ignored her instead of arguing and trying to lecture her. She never lost her cool throughout all this, but she did when I shut the door on her. She said I had no right and that she lived here while I didn't. I don't think I'm the idiot necessarily, but I'm not sure about my treatment of my niece. Maybe instead of attacking her so much, I could have listened. Plus, if I managed to make her believe in me favouring her brother, then I must be doing something wrong. Am I the idiot? Called me every name in the book and accused me of favouring her crybaby of a brother. Wow, looks like Jim's attitude has rubbed off on your niece, and now it's her turn to bully this poor kid, all while trying to convince you that Jim has changed. You are not the idiot, you are following the rules of your brother and his wife. He wasn't allowed over. Make sure they know about this altercation. She's 21. She needs to be booted from the nest if she's going to act this way. Yeah, you were left in charge of the child whose parents have banned Jim from their home. Your niece knows that Jim isn't allowed at the house and tried to sneak him in when her parents weren't home. You tried multiple times to tell her so nicely, then finally closed the door when she wouldn't stop. You've got nothing to feel bad about, and I'm sure your nephew and brother and sister-in-law are grateful you ended it. You get that she likely waited until the parents left because she thought you would be easier to manipulate, right? But OMG, the way she's treating her own brother. Yikes, holy cow. You were following the parents' wishes to protect their son from this bully. I hope the whole family cuts her off for this behaviour. Update. I told my brother and sister-in-law about the incident. There really is no other word to describe their reaction apart from devastated. My brother took her keys from her the other day in fear of something like this happening. He said he couldn't trust her, and he seemed right. She's been sleeping at Jim's place now. Honestly, it's insane. Niece was protective when her brother began developing his disorder. She was scared and cried when he ended up in the hospital once. I don't understand why she's so serious about Jim. They've only been dating 6 months tops, but the fact that she chooses her brother's bully is disappointing, especially since she saw how it affected her brother personally. She's still my niece, and I still love her despite the disappointment and anger. I'm a 26-year-old female and my sister is 22. My sister and I don't have a close relationship and I can't say I ever considered her a friend or even a good family member. Most of it isn't truly her fault, but I place more on her in times like these. My parents believed that being the older sister, I needed to make sacrifices for her. If we were getting takeout and she wanted pizza and I wanted Chinese, well, she was the baby, so I should agree with pizza for her sake. If we both had birthday party invites for the same day, well, she should get to go and I should be fine staying home. Same with going to see a movie as a family, or choosing where to go on vacation. We were all supposed to get a vote, but hers always counted as 2, so after a while, it seemed pointless. When we got older, it was often a thing I would need to cancel plans if she had plans my parents couldn't take her to, or if they needed someone to watch her, and then they would order food before they left so she'd get what she wanted and I'd just have to deal. I know stuff like that isn't uncommon, and in moderation I don't think it's awful, but there was never any balance. My parents would argue that being older meant I had more freedom, and that was what I should focus on. But that freedom meant nothing because I couldn't make the most of it. My sister grew to expect I would always let her get her way, and when she turned 17 and I'd been out of the house and out of her life and my parents' lives, she reached out and wanted to know why I left, and I told her. She told me she'd do better, and we started to repair things, and I would call her on being selfish. But it hasn't really improved, and I felt the relationship is more of a chore than a joy. A few weeks ago, I got engaged to my partner, and I asked my 3 closest friends to be my bridesmaids, and I chose to forego the maid of honor because I love all 3 equally. She assumed she was my maid of honor, and I told her she wasn't. She wanted to know why, and I told her maid of honor is a special role and we're not close enough for that. She then comes out with how she deserves it for being a good sister and how I'm being mean and taking the past out on her. I told her she'd done nothing to deserve being maid of honor, that it's not the past when it still actively happens, and she still tries to get me to treat her like her choice is worth more than mine. She started to cry and told me she's been trying, and I was being mean to her instead of giving her time. But it's been 5 years of me calling out her BS and of me telling her when she's acting like she has since we were kids. I think she expects me to always just deal with it under the guise of time, but she ended up leaving and was really upset. She told me that she understood I didn't always like her, but that I was mean with what I said. Am I the idiot? So I assume I'm your maid of honor. No, you're not. What? You're so mean to me I'm going to act hysterical now. Why am I not your maid of honor? OP, you haven't done anything wrong. Your sister made a bad assumption because she's entitled. Then she acted outraged at your choice because she was entitled. Notice that nowhere in her conversation with you did she say she cared about your happiness or supporting your wedding. It's still all about her. You made a solid choice, you're not the idiot. But I'd get ready to buckle up if I were you. Golden Child is going to get all her flying monkeys whipped up into a frenzy and send them your way. And get ready for your parents, they're going to come in hard. And once again, the Golden Child will end up being the center of attention, even though it's your wedding. It's so incredibly tragic that your parents set up this rift between you the way they did. It was divisive to your relationship. Your sister will remain a brat as long as she can always get away with it. You show more love to your sister by not giving in, enabling her main character behavior. Let your wedding be the first among many lessons she learns. Background. My 21 female girlfriend, 21, and I are seniors in college and are discussing our future. But we have an issue where her parents say I stole from them, and they won't acknowledge our relationship because they don't want their daughter dating a thief. My girlfriend and I met during my freshman year of college. We became best friends. In my sophomore year, she wanted to move off campus and her friends bought a condo for her to use. The condo was a large 2-bedroom condo. She asked if I wanted to move in with her and pay rent. Her parents agreed to pay the utilities. I didn't want to stay on campus and she offered to charge me the same rent I'd be paying for a small studio apartment in our college's city. So I agreed. The agreement was I pay her and she would forward the money to her parents. Now here is where the issue arose. When I moved in, I believed that we agreed to a rent of, let's say, $1,500. According to her parents, I agreed to $1,600. I've lived with my girlfriend for 3 years now, and I always paid $1,500. The difference came to light when she told her parents we're now dating. Her parents were upset and told me that she cannot date a thief. My girlfriend told me this, and I asked her to explain. Basically, when I first paid her $1,500, her parents asked about the difference. Girlfriend was afraid to bring up the issue with me, as she didn't want us to start fighting over money as we were close friends. She said that she thought I might have just been low on money as my family isn't as well off as hers, and I was working a part-time job and using student loans to help cover rent. She never told me about the difference, and I continued to pay $1,500 for the entire time we lived there. So now her parents assume I stole almost $4,000 from them. It's gotten to the point that they refuse to even acknowledge we're dating at all. My girlfriend and I turned my room into an office and workspace room as we didn't need 2 bedrooms since we're now sharing a bed. She told her parents, and their response was maybe sleeping on the couch would get me to pay them the money I owed. I cannot afford to pay them $4,000. My girlfriend acknowledges that she should have said something but said her parents are adamant that they get paid because they feel like I took advantage of their generosity. I don't want to blame my girlfriend and I doubt her parents will accept my word, but I feel like I shouldn't have to pay them when I didn't realize this was an issue. So, am I the idiot for refusing to pay $4,000 to my girlfriend's parents? Edit, my girlfriend told them she didn't bring it up to me. They believed that she was just making excuses for me and that I knew what the rent was. We didn't do a formal lease, it was all through phone calls and texts. We haven't been able to find any texts as they all occurred freshman year. We were stupid not to do a lease, but we didn't think it was necessary. My girlfriend doesn't think I have to pay it, but she suggested we pay it together because her parents won't let it go or talk to me unless it's me apologizing for taking advantage of their generosity and paying what they say is owed. Not the idiot. If there's no written agreement, move out. That all sounds so annoying. Your girlfriend is a literal child and threw you under the bus. No idea why you'd think you were an idiot. Parents sound like a nightmare, honestly. No one would expect a college student to just magically have $4,000, so they're giving you an impossible task because they don't like you for other reasons, I'm sure. Especially the fact that the girlfriend and her parents seem to talk about this a lot, and yet no one can be an adult and talk to you directly. Call them, leave them a message if they don't answer and explain what happened. Then get out of there. Leave that spineless amoeba of a girlfriend there. Oh, and don't give them any more money. If they thought you weren't paying up, then their responsibility was to raise it with you, their tenant. No. Please, OP, do not call them and acknowledge that there is a disparity. They could sue you and this could be used as evidence. It's a long shot, but I'd just rather not go there. Screw them. No lease, no proof. I would just move out. Do you want a partner that brushes things under the rug and then allows them to fester into a huge issue that could have been resolved easily at first with a simple statement of facts? Because that is evidence of really poor communication skills and conflict avoidance manipulation. Life has conflict. She cannot always avoid it by never bringing it up. That's super unhealthy. Discussing misunderstandings is what adults do. Also, girlfriend's parents hate their daughter is dating a woman, in the most passive-aggressive way possible. I married my husband 3 years ago. He's the baby of his large family, 11 kids. His oldest sister has an 18-year-old daughter who's expecting a baby. Niece is Elizabeth. She's a lovely person and she and I have been close since I met the family 6 years ago. She was always a huge fan of my name, Astrea. She liked how uncommon it was, and she admitted that her parents thought my name was dumb. She talked about how boring her name was and wished she had one like mine. She told me she'd love to name her future kids like me one day. I thought it was sweet. Sister-in-law and her husband have often used my name and my older brother's as examples of dumb things people name their kids. My older brother is Finch. All my siblings and I have names that my in-laws don't exactly love, but mine and my older brother's names get the most mentions in that context. My husband told his sister to knock it off before, and we even took a small break from her over it. What happened is a few weeks ago, sister-in-law started ranting and raving at me about how it was all my fault her grandson would have a ridiculous and atrocious name and that she hopes I'm proud of myself. That my incompetent, dumb-as-heck parents, who had no idea what a name is and how to plan for a kid's future, had started her daughter down the same path as them, and she told me I should never have let her daughter think my name was a good thing or that I wasn't made miserable by it. She said I might pretend, but even I know my parents were sick for doing it and should be ashamed of themselves for saddling me with it, and that I hate them deep down for it. My husband told her to get out and not to come near us again. Our niece called upset and we talked. She said her parents were trying to get her boyfriend to talk her out of their chosen name. I told her that the name she chose was lovely and that I could speak from experience that it's possible to grow up loving your more unusual name and not being held back by it. So I encouraged her to follow her heart and name him what she chose. She asked to speak to my younger brother, who has the name she chose and is the only person she ever heard with it. It made her feel better. Sister-in-law went on a rampage with the rest of the family over what I said to her though, and some of my in-laws believe I was wrong to undermine her. My husband said she was being vicious and out of control for no reason. But did I handle it all wrong? Am I the idiot? The name in question is Cove, just for anyone who wonders. Not the idiot. Jesus, what are these people on? It's not their baby, so it's not their name to choose. Your name and Cove are fine names. Lovely names, in fact. The sister-in-law sounds like she knows her ability to control her daughter is dwindling and trying to grab and snatch back some, which is a shame because it could cause her to lose access to her own grandchildren. You've done nothing wrong. Sister-in-law should hit the asylum, LOL. Who the heck gets agitated over stupid names? I've heard plenty of bad names and I've never laughed at them more than once. The fact that she has no tact and has been vocal and rude about your name and your family names and is now doing the same thing to her daughter and future grandson speaks loads about her. Niece might decide she doesn't get a relationship with him because she's rude. Your sister-in-law sounds controlling and unreasonable and a bit abusive. Frankly, this isn't her decision. It's your niece's. You're not undermining your sister-in-law because your niece is an adult who can make her own choices. I'm glad that she has someone in her family who supports her. Just keep being there for her and go low or no contact with your sister-in-law until she decides to speak to you like a rational adult. I, 45 female, lost my first husband Mike when my eldest, Sarah, 28, was 10. Sarah got married 2 days ago. So during the family after ceremony party, I'm not sure what it's called abroad, a few of our family members, my dad, Mike's mom and one of his brothers, and my son said a few speeches about her. It was all fine until my sister-in-law, Mike's sister, started her speech. She started talking about Mike and the speech mentioned almost nothing about Sarah. The one thing said about Sarah is how she's proud Sarah didn't replace Mike with Jake. She then brought up the topic of Mike's death. Sarah always had nightmares and panics about it, so we avoid that specific topic of him. And when my sister-in-law started going into detail about it, both she and my mother-in-law, Mike's mom, started having panic attacks. Jake and his siblings started telling sister-in-law to stop. My siblings, myself and Mike's brothers were too busy with Sarah and mother-in-law. She wouldn't stop. Long story short, they finally had to kick her out of the wedding. But all of yesterday I had people calling me to ask me to apologize to sister-in-law because, according to them, while sister-in-law was wrong, it wasn't my husband's place to kick her out. So, am I the idiot? Because I'm still in shock after what happened, I'm not thinking clearly. So, let me understand. Your first husband's sister decided at your daughter's wedding to make a tragic speech about her brother that's passed away for, I don't know, let me guess, 18 plus years, and now your family wants you to apologize, but your daughter, the bride, had a full-blown panic attack at her wedding, and that's probably ruined all her other memories of what should have been the best day of her life? Am I right? Because if I am, you are definitely not the idiot. Your sister-in-law is a witch. And I agree the sister-in-law is the idiot here, and delusional to think it matters who kicked her out since the point is she deserved to be kicked out. The only person who owes anyone an apology is your sister-in-law, who clearly was being too self-absorbed to read the room. I will disagree and say you are the idiot for not calling your sister-in-law and ripping her a new one. I understand that she's still mourning the loss of her brother, and that's understandable, but to use what should have been a joyous occasion for everyone to bring up the details and not stop when seeing family members suffering was unforgivable. She needs to hear about the pain she caused. I'm so sorry your family had to go through that, OP.